This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. The city of Thompson is home right now to hundreds of people forced from their houses due to wildfires. Many of them wait anxiously on word of the status of their community. It is an uneasy feeling for several holed up in the northern Manitoba city. That's where CBC's Brittany Greenslade is tonight. Brittany.
Yeah, Marjorie, we're here outside the community centre that has been home for hundreds of evacuees for the last week. Now, some people are stressed out. There's emotions running high. And for many, being away from home is starting to take a toll. Now, there has been a little bit of rain here in Thompson, but the areas that need it most are certainly not getting the amount that they need. And it's causing those wildfires to continue to run out of control, even leaving some people stranded.
The sky smoke-choked and red, an eerie drive down Highway 6.
You could only see past the your hood there, and that was it.
High winds fan the flames. It's impossible for those trying to get through on Highway 373. The access is closed. Drivers were stranded Monday night.
The smoke seemed to be approaching me, and I could see flames in the distance shooting up in the trees.
It's been Leighton Gunther's reality for almost a week as he tries to get goods to Norway House. Instead, he and others resorted to sleeping on the side of the road.
It's best at this state. This looks like the safest place to stay is in Woboden.
Within minutes, it was pitch black, driving through thick smoke with ash-covered windshields. For many, the only option is to head to Thompson, to the evacuation center.
We also have people who are stranded on the highways, and we try to accommodate them, and they show up at the door and have nowhere to go.
Hundreds from all over the province are now making this home. More than 400 were here Monday night alone, tired, scared, and waiting.
Emotional, stressful, because, I don't know, at least we're all safe, you know, that's the only thing that matters.
They left with what they could carry. Now the community is filling the gap.
I'm smiling.
A table of clothing donations, food in nearly every room, and help to keep the kids busy. For Priscilla Marquardt and her 5 kids, leaving Lynn Lake and her husband wasn't easy.
So it was really extreme. We went on a bus out here with like all the kids from Lynn Lake, and it was loud, bumpy, the kids were scared.
They've been sleeping on cots and blow-up mattresses for more than a week. Keeping her 1-month-old baby healthy is her biggest concern.
It was hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard because you have like all the risks of him getting sick, stuff like that. So basically, my main thing was just get him out.
Now, according to the numbers we just got from the province, that fire near Lynn Lake is now nearly 70,000 hectares in size. Meantime, the Canadian Armed Forces is still trying to get people out of Cross Lake and Pimicikamak First Nation. Meantime, here, people are just hoping for some good news from their hometowns and hoping for rain. Marjorie?
Thank you very much, Brittany. That's CBC's Brittany Greenslade reporting live from Thompson tonight. No structures have been lost to fire in Flin Flon so far as crews continue to hold back a fast-moving fire. But for surrounding areas, the news isn't as good. CBC's Josh Crabb reports.
As crews continue to fight the ferocious fires near Flin Flon, people are starting to find out the places they left behind outside the city won't be there when they go back.
As of Sunday, we had been told that our cabin was definitively gone.
Michelle Zott's place was on Sally's Beach Road, southeast of Flin Flon. Losing it to wildfire has left her shocked, devastated, and concerned more homes and cottages will be destroyed.
It's just unfathomable. It's a monster.
Hours before the fire moved into the Saskatchewan village of Denair Beach, this was a last-ditch effort by crews to protect Elaine Angelski's home. The community southwest of Flin Flon confirmed some structures were destroyed.
It was awful. It was an immediate stress response. I just started to shake and felt like I was going to vomit, actually.
Angelski went to a Pasquiat cremation with her brother and 2 dogs after Denair Beach was evacuated. She isn't sure if her home is among those that have burned.
We're waiting to hear how much damage there was. We know there was some homes lost.
Flin Flon's Mayor George Fontaine says so far no structures have burned within city limits. He says the community is still under threat of fire from all four sides, but so far crews have been able to protect it.
I'm terrified. When I left, I didn't think I'd ever see my home again, and I'm not confident that I will, but I hope to.
Fontaine says there's no timeline on when people will be able to go back, but it likely won't be soon. While Zott's place was a secondary home, that doesn't make the loss any easier.
And I don't know what resources they have to pull to get this monster under control, because it is consuming everything and anything in its path. And these firemen, they are heroes.
She knows her place is gone, but hopes others can be saved. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Thousands have fled their homes over the past 2 weeks to escape the flames and smoke. Now, as of Monday, more than 14,000 people had registered with the Canadian Red Cross. The Canadian Air Force continues to help get people to safety. As of the end of day Monday, 3,500 people had been airlifted out of northern Manitoba to escape wildfires. There are 28 active fires across the province, and 162 firefighters are working to contain them. Northern First Nations are calling for firefighting equipment to protect their communities as they wrap up evacuations. CBC's Rosanna Hempel reports.
As growing wildfires rage closer to northern communities, Manitoba First Nations leaders say their homes and lands are at stake.
They want to protect their communities, but they don't have the equipment. They should have been provided with that equipment, because they're saving lives. And who is withholding this equipment from them?
We are asking the province, we're asking Canada. We say that we're in a state of emergency, and we have to wait for them to respond to our emergency.
In northwestern Manitoba, a 10,000-hectare wildfire has cornered remote Puckatawagan. Just south, a larger one is pushing north. Joining the press conference virtually, Chief Gordy Bear says his local firefighters only have 2 fire trucks, 3 pumps, and about 2,000 feet of hoses.
Absolutely nothing from the Department of Natural Resources for fire suppression. Again, I say we have nothing but hose for our gardens, rakes for the lawns, nothing to fight fire with, nothing.
It's like trying to fight a fire with a water pistol.
Meanwhile, further southeast, a wildfire has jumped the lake, pushing closer to Pimichikamak Cree Nation. Chief David Monius says it's burned through cabins and traditional hunting grounds and could claim more without more resources from the feds and province.
We worked so hard to build our community, and here we are, we're fighting even just to get water bombers.
The province says water bombers in the Flin Flon and Puckatawagan area have been grounded in the last couple of days due to smoke. The spokesperson saying significant fire suppression efforts have been deployed wherever there is a fire, including those impacting First Nations. The federal government did not answer specific questions about firefighting crews or equipment by deadline. But in Ottawa on Tuesday, the federal Minister of Emergency Management says her department will provide additional relief to communities and make sure they're more resilient in the future. The Grand Chiefs say the help can't wait.
A lot of these people are volunteer firefighters. They are risking their lives and leaving their families and leaving their homes to fight fires.
Pleading for help before it's too late. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk joins us now. And Riley, you've been watching the wind very closely here because obviously this affects what happens with the wildfires.
Yeah, exactly. Winds today have been very variable in terms of speed and gust. Here's a look at where things stand right now. We aren't getting a lot of data at the moment, very patchy at best from both Flin Flon and Lynn Lake, where that largest fire, those largest several fires are now burning. But we have seen west and northwesterly winds today. I've seen seen some gusts upwards of 50 and 60 kilometers an hour in northern Manitoba. That's what's made things particularly challenging today, is the unpredictability of the wind and the gusts at which we've seen them. So I've overlaid some of the larger fires on the map here so you can kind of get a sense at where things are going in terms of that wind direction. We will see winds starting to die off as we get through the next day or so in northern Manitoba. That all because of this area of low pressure, which has, yes, brought some needed rain, not in the amounts that we'd like, but has also picked up the wind quite considerably over the last 24 hours or so. In southern Manitoba, as expected, a few patchy showers, some scattered thunderstorms. I'll talk about all this and go into your long-range forecast with some rain in northern Manitoba when I come back, March.
Thank you very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
A red dress alert system could be in place by next May. That's according to the Manitoba group tasked with getting the pilot project up and running in this province. The update comes at a time when thousands of people are being forced from their homes due to wildfires and end up in places they're not familiar with and in situations where they could be vulnerable. CBC's Alana Cole reports.
In Manitoba, fires out of control. People forced from their homes, a situation that worries Sandra Delarond.
We have hundreds, if not thousands, of people in the city and the surrounding area that, are vulnerable. And, we've seen in the past how vulnerable people are targeted.
Delarond's part of the group giving an update on the pilot project, creating a red dress alert system. One that brings agencies and organizations together to quickly alert the public and search when Indigenous women, girls, and gender-diverse people are reported missing. The group has engaged in communities throughout Manitoba and hope to have a system in place by May 2026. Denise Cook is leading the pilot.
The next steps are to meet with the collateral agencies that include law enforcement, that include emergency services, that include all the other systems that are currently responding to missing and murdered Indigenous women and 2S+. Or not responding. That is a huge, there are gaps.
While planning for the alert system continues, Delarond says more patrols in and around hotels and evacuation sites, as well as a response line if someone goes missing, are ways to help keep those fleeing fires safe. At a separate news conference, Manitoba's Grand Chief Kyra Wilson says they are looking at addressing safety concerns where people who have been displaced are staying.
We know that these sites are now a target for predators, for human traffickers, for drug dealers.
Wilson says they're working to bring in wraparound supports for those now far from home. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Evacuees from Puckatawagan arrived at Winnipeg's Union Station today after a long train ride from northern Manitoba. Vanita Linklater traveled here with her brother and other family members. She is trying to get to Ontario to be reunited with the rest of her family.
My dad and my brother are currently in Ontario right now. I'm with my family and my mom and my brother and my sister, and we've been traveling all together. And we're trying to reunite with my dad and my brother.
Linklater says the last week has been hectic. Many evacuees from Puckatawagan are currently staying in Niagara Falls, where accommodations have been set up for them. 3 houses caught fire in downtown Winnipeg this afternoon. The houses were located on Langside Street, just off of Ellis Avenue. Fire crews say all occupants had safely evacuated before they arrived. One eyewitness said he was playing with his young nephew in a nearby park when the child noticed smoke. He said he went to neighboring houses and knocked on doors to alert others about the fire.
He told me to rush, said there's people up there, so I went and banged on the door. And by the time I got to the door, there was a guy already climbing out the windows. The smoke was like a fog, and then it turned into black billowy smoke within minutes, and the house, the flames went from the back to the front of the house within minutes.
Crews put out the flames and was declared under control at about 3 p.m. No injuries were reported. The fire is under investigation. A murder charge has been stayed against one of 3 men accused in the fatal shooting of a Winnipeg soccer player. Prosecutors have determined Ibrahim Bangura's involvement in the killing of 22-year-old Mohammed Yusuf Abdullahi is, quote, different than the co-accused in this situation. A court spokesperson said Bangura's charge was stayed on May 13th. Abdullahi was shot in the parking lot of the Ralph Cantafeo soccer complex on Waverley on July 13th. Police also asked for the public's help finding a third suspect in the case, 22-year-old Tresor Horember. They said while Horember has family and friends in Winnipeg, he may be in Ontario where he has other family connections. Crown prosecutors are staying all charges against a man who spent 25 years in prison for a triple murder in Winnipeg. Manitoba's highest court squashed the first-degree murder convictions of Robert Sanderson last week. He had been found guilty in the 1996 killings of 3 men in what was believed to be a gang turf war. The Crown in the case was the late George Dangerfield, whose name has become synonymous with wrongful convictions in Manitoba. DNA proved a crime scene hair sample did not belong to Sanderson. A semi-truck hit an overpass on Portage Avenue near Empress this afternoon. Part of the road was temporarily blocked while crews got rid of debris. Police say traffic eventually returned to normal and that there are no additional safety concerns. No injuries were reported. All right, Riley Lakechuck joins us once again. And Riley, of course, with these wildfires is smoke, air quality. What are you noticing?
Yeah, we'll get into the air quality because I think once we get into the day on Wednesday for southern Manitoba into tomorrow, we're looking at a day pretty similar to what we saw on Sunday with those very smoky, very milky skies across the Red River Valley. I'll get into that in a bit. I do want to take a good long-range look at northern Manitoba to start tonight, though, because we are looking for some very, very much needed rain in the north. I know we have seen some, not nearly as much as we need. That's thanks to this area of low pressure, which has also been bringing some of those very strong winds to parts of northern Manitoba. So a bit of a double-edged sword on that one. And as we look long range, I'm going to show you a long-range forecast model here, which take it with a bit of a grain of salt because things between now and a week from now could change pretty considerably as the forecast modeling refines itself and we get some better understanding of where these weather systems are headed. So we'll just look at the next week here and see what things look like. So here's the rest of that area of low pressure. Very light precipitation yet to come as that spins off over Hudson Bay into the day on Wednesday. The rest of the province looking at a clearing sky but smoky conditions as we get through Wednesday. We don't start to see our next chance for some precipitation in northern Manitoba until we get into Thursday. Another area of low pressure with a frontal boundary starts to push across the northern prairies. This is looking like our best shot for some precipitation into the weekend, particularly for anywhere north of Swan River, those areas that are needing some of that. We'll talk amounts in a moment. Probably, again, not nearly as much as we'd like, but it's a start for sure as we see another band of that pushing through into early next week. So right now, this particular forecast model predicting anywhere from 5 to 15 millimeters across a general part of northern Manitoba with some pockets of higher accumulation by the time we get into next week. So that just gives you a sense of what could be coming as we get into the next week. As that area of low pressure departs, we will start to see the winds backing off, particularly into northwestern Manitoba. So by Wednesday at this time, we're looking at winds backing off to a northwesterly 15 gusting 30, even calm winds as we get into Thursday. That combined with some cooler temperatures will start to aid firefighters as we wait for some of that rain to arrive by the weekend. The northwesterly flow, the trade-off with that will be some very smoky skies across southern Manitoba, looking at the air quality health index in Winnipeg in particular and into the Parkland, likely at a 10 plus by the time we get into the afternoon hours tomorrow. That the result of some of that smoke coming from the fires in northwestern Manitoba, but also into northern parts of Saskatchewan. So tomorrow, bit of a cooler one because of that. 21 degrees in Winnipeg, 24 for Thursday, and March warming up to 27 by the weekend.
Thank you very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
The Liberal government has proposed new federal legislation to tighten the border. The wide-sweeping bill aims to strengthen Canada's response to national and economic security threats and enhance the integrity of the immigration system. As Evan Dyer reports, it also includes measures that Ottawa says will address some U.S. concerns.
This morning, I introduced Bill C-2, the Strong Borders Act.
The bill proposes a number of changes to Canada's criminal code, police powers, and the way asylum claims are processed. A big part of it is about fentanyl.
Will ensure Canada has the right tools to keep our borders secure, combat transnational organized crime and fentanyl, and disrupt illicit financing.
Canada has been under pressure on fentanyl.
It's pouring in from China through Mexico and Canada, and they've got to stop it.
There are a number of elements in the bill that have been irritants for the U.S., so we are addressing some of those issues.
Public Safety Minister Gary Ananda Sangari says the bill will give Canadian border guards more authority to search goods intended for export. The U.S. border czar has already been briefed, and Canada's envoy to Trump, Dominic LeBlanc, is selling the bill in Washington. The U.S. is embroiled in its own immigration drama with daily raids by immigration agency ICE, as its ambassador to Canada explained.
We're now tracking down people who are murderers, thieves, and rapists who are in the country illegally.
Refugee lawyers say the Canadian bill mimics aspects of U.S. law.
The government has adopted this FAR, which is essentially similar to an element in the U.S. asylum system. In the U.S., if you're in the country for more than a year, you can't seek refugee protection.
The government is asking other parties to support the bill, but Conservatives aren't sure it will be enough for Trump.
Has he listened to anything? Of course not. He'll do it his way. You've seen what he's done in the last 3 months.
I think that the title of the act is for show for the Trump administration.
There's a lot of doubt still about exactly what this 120-page bill means in practice, but all agree it's a major overhaul that goes far beyond the border itself. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
The White House says U.S. President Trump will double tariffs for steel and aluminum starting Wednesday.
Steel and aluminum tariffs will be going to 50%. He made that announcement in Pennsylvania, and he plans to deliver on that promise to Pennsylvanians.
Trump had announced his plan to increase import duties to 50% at a U.S. steel plant on Friday. In March, the U.S. imposed 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. A steep 50% hike could hurt industries and consumers on both sides of the border, with prices going up for big-ticket purchases like cars, washing machines, and even homes. Wildfires in Saskatchewan continue to force more people out of their homes. Residents evacuating from the La Ronge area spent Monday night driving through hazardous conditions. And in other parts of the province, fires are now entering communities and damaging structures. CBC's Alexandre Silberman reports.
Fast-moving flames have forced more than 7,000 people in the La Ronge area to flee their homes, the latest community in Saskatchewan under an evacuation order. High winds pushed wildfire dangerously close to the community Monday, with flames breaching the airport about 6 kilometers from town. Residents of La Ronge, Air Ronge, the Lac La Ronge Reserve, and anywhere within a 20-kilometer radius were ordered to evacuate late Monday afternoon.
Holy
Hundreds of cars have been traveling down the main road out of town under hazardous conditions. Fire burning on both sides of the highway. Heavy wildfire smoke and limited to zero visibility is making the evacuation slow. The province says vehicles are being escorted through, only when safe to do so.
There was fire burning on both sides of the road, and to me, that's too close for comfort.
Adding to the chaos, limited gas and widespread phone and internet outages. And with the airport closed due to heavy smoke and fire, patients at the local hospital had to be taken out by ambulance instead of by plane. In Saskatchewan's northeast, more people have been forced to leave Denair Beach. The final remaining firefighters and all essential staff were evacuated yesterday. The southern half of the community has burned to the ground as neighbors watched from afar.
We shared video camera footage from our cameras of our houses until each one sequentially lit on fire.
Thousands of evacuees are arriving here in Prince Albert in search of help and a place to stay. This hotel is where tired and relieved evacuees from L'Orange are arriving to register with the Red Cross. But accommodations are quickly filling up, and many are driving hours south in search of a place to stay. The province is now looking to Alberta, hoping evacuees might be able to go there. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Prince Albert, Saskatchewan.
Smoke from all the western wildfires is traveling far and wide. It's heading east across Canada and stretching down to the southern United States. That's creating a lot of haze that brings significant health hazards with it. Alison Northcott explains.
This was how thick the smoke was on the Opaskwayak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba Sunday.
The smoke was so bad. You could barely see 200 yards, and most of the people that were working outside were coughing, and they were complaining about feeling short of breath.
The community's leadership helped people at risk, seniors and those with health problems like asthma, leave the community to escape the smoke.
We had them go to Winnipeg, where it's a little bit less smoky, we hope, but we hear it's down there too.
There have been air quality alerts across several parts of the country, with wildfire smoke also spilling into the U.S.
It's sure smoky in Minnesota today.
Those aren't clouds, that's Canadian smoke.
Breathing smoky air is more than just uncomfortable. It can be risky.
The particles that you breathe in, they get into your lungs, they get into your bloodstream, and they cause both risks to your heart health, but also your respiratory health.
That's particularly true for people who have underlying health conditions, and the risk can be compounded over time.
As these wildfires are happening more frequently, they're happening longer, we're actually seeing risks like certain types of cancer, so brain cancer, longer-term cardiovascular impacts that are coming from repeated exposures to wildfires.
But there are things you can do to lower your exposure.
Head inside, keep your windows and doors closed as much as possible, and then you need to filter those fine particles from the smoke.
And if you do go out on a smoky day, experts suggest wearing an N95 mask.
Health Canada says people should also keep an eye on the Air Quality Health Index online to know when the air quality is a health risk. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Now, to get a true scale of all the smoke from wildfires burning across Western Canada, we have to look from space. This is a time lapse of satellite images from May 31st to June 2nd. That black line going across the screen is the Canada-US border. Just right of center, you can see the Great Lakes. Gray smoke can be seen wafting south over North Dakota, Minnesota, and slowly drifting toward the east coast. There are more than 55 active fires burning in Alberta, 18 wildfires in Saskatchewan, and 28 here in Manitoba, with thousands of Canadians displaced from their homes. An Ontario court has approved Canadian Tire's purchase of Hudson's Bay trademarks. The $30 million deal will give Canadian Tire the rights to the Bay name and its coat of arms and iconic stripes. The deal also includes the Bay's distinctly home brand, its Hudson North apparel line, and trademarks like Bay Days. Canadian Tire beat out a dozen other bidders. The approval comes months after Canada's oldest company filed for creditor protection and 2 days after it closed all 96 of its stores worldwide. The UN is demanding an investigation into another deadly incident involving an aid distribution site in southern Gaza. Palestinian authorities and witnesses say Israeli forces fired on civilians. Local health officials are reporting at least 27 were killed. It's the third deadly incident involving people heading to aid sites in as many days. CBC's Tom Perry reports from Jerusalem.
A large crowd of Palestinians had gathered near this site that's run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. That's the organization that's backed by the U.S., backed by Israel. It's kind of displaced the United Nations as the lead agency distributing food in southern Gaza. So this large crowd had gathered early this morning. It was going to advance toward the site where the aid is given out. But eyewitnesses, people we've heard from, say that they came under fire from Israeli troops who control that area. Now, the Israel Defense Force, the IDF, put out a statement today saying that its troops in that area saw what they call suspects who were outside the approved zone, the approved area where people could go to advance to get this food aid. They say that they fired warning shots, and that when these suspects kept moving toward Israeli positions, they opened fire. Now, they describe this as a few suspects, but we're talking about more than 24 dead here and many, many more injured. So this is more than a few people who were involved. And again, this is not the first time that this happened. On Sunday, 31 people were killed near the same area when they were lining up to go to get food aid. Now, the Israeli military, the Israeli government has vehemently denied being involved in that incident on Sunday. It actually released video, but it's claiming to show masked gunmen near Han Yunis firing on Palestinians who had been gathering looted aid. But we did hear today from the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. He's calling for an independent investigation into what happened on Sunday. He says whoever was involved, whoever was responsible, needs to be brought to justice. That garnered a blistering response today from Israel's foreign ministry. It says that Guterres didn't call out Hamas in his statement and actually called the statement by the Secretary General a disgrace. So a very angry message there going toward the UN Secretary General coming from the government of Israel. Tom Parry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
As out-of-control wildfires threaten communities in northern Manitoba, CBC Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault has been given special access to the Canadian military operation tasked with getting people to safety. In her exclusive report from the PAW, she brings us a first-hand look at the evacuation effort.
This is CFB Winnipeg, and over the past several days, several of these C-130s have been going to places like the PAW loaded with supplies, bringing people out from the fire zone. Helicopters have been going even further. That is the plan for today. The good news is it's raining. The problem is it's not raining in the right places. Where there's fire, it is still hot and dry, and it's really windy. On board, some medical personnel and only a few supplies, because this is the tail end of this mission for now. More than 1,000 people moved away from the fires over just a few days.
Altimeter 2967.
And what you can't yet see as we head north out of Winnipeg, you can certainly smell. The smoke from all those fires threatening to choke and burn even more of this province. These officers have all been deployed around the world. That they're doing this at home seems incredibly humbling. I've done a few of these evacuation flights, but what sticks with me?
Honestly, these are the most rewarding flights I've done. I've deployed 4 times throughout the world and operating around the world, but like nothing beats pulling Canadians out of harm's way in Canada.
We have felt under a lot of pressure to get people out. There's a lot of young children, older folks with respiratory issues. We need to get them out.
But they've also been very frustrated. Like we heard like the anger about like hurry up.
Yeah. I mean, the assets are arrayed across Canada, and we have to coalesce them into one place. So many of these helicopters you'll see on the ground today are from all the breadth of Canada, and so it takes a couple of days or a day to get them in there.
And in the PAW, in a matter of days, this has become a wildly active airfield. As we land, a Chinook helicopter is also touching down. And coming off it, some of the very last people to leave Puckatawagan. Being out of there, both a relief and a trauma.
The winds were rotating around the community quite a bit, so the helicopters and planes were grounded quite often.
How did you make a choice of what to bring with you? Like,
just carry whatever you could. One bag, one carry-on.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Just to orient you here on the tarmac here in the PAW, these helicopters here, these smaller ones, these are Griffins. A lot of them have come in from Petawawa. That big one back there, the Chinook, that is the workhorse. That is the craft that has been getting most of the people out of Puckatawagan. It's hard to land and take off in Puckatawagan, especially with the heat. A Hercules plane has real trouble in extreme heat getting the lift it needs. It's also a very short runway, so that's why they've had to use the helicopters. With those left behind in Puckatawagan thought to be just the first responders and firefighters, the team decides to take one last loop just to make sure. The winds have been worsening, so they need to leave fast. It's roughly an hour flight north, but quickly they have to climb. The smoke is too thick. And see that? The plume is rising even at 8,000 feet. And closer to Puckatawagan, the depth of the problem is so very clear. The fire encroaching close to roads and communities, even with all that water, escaping is no longer possible. Just when they think all is clear to go back, they have to circle and land. There is one more family to get out. It's a moment to chat with the first responder.
The community has its essential services personnel geared up to maintain the services in the community and all the stuff that they have to do in order to maintain the security, safety, and sustainment of the community. So
But these winds are bad, huh?
They're pretty high, and I think they're causing some problems for some of the fires around here. But in this community, things are stable.
Okay, thank you very much. Good luck. You be safe. Then back onto the Chinook. It's loud, too loud to talk, but we exchange notes. The little guy, Bryden, is 4. That is Christy and Keith. He's in public works and stayed to do his job until the last second, and they've all run out of time. This kind of experience is beyond jarring, and so's this. At 9,000 feet, suddenly the sunlight is blocked out. The fire cloud and ash envelops the helicopter. Word from down below is that the fire is now just a few hundred meters from the runway, and the winds are fierce. Hard to imagine it is just the beginning of June, and Canada's wild summer of wildfires may be just starting.
Well, Riley, as we saw there in Adrian's report, really eye-opening, that ash, that smoke that you can see in the helicopter. Yeah.
I know she'll have more coming up on the National tonight as well. That smoke causing problems right across North America and beyond. Let's start with the air quality warnings that are in place, the air quality statements as well for our province, a good chunk of northern Manitoba in those air quality alerts right now. I do expect that we'll see those starting to move a little bit further to the south and to the southeast as we get into the day tomorrow, as we see that northwesterly wind pushing some of that smoke from these wildfires down into southern Manitoba, these extending all the way back into the Midwest and even along the eastern seaboard, all because of this haze. And as we follow some of this, aided in part by this area of low pressure, we can follow this all the way across northern Quebec through the maritime provinces. And yes, this is some of that haze making its way into the North Atlantic and into parts of Europe. So this is having a very, very far-reaching impact, aided in part by our upper level winds, the jet stream picking some of this up and funneling it eastward and across the Atlantic. So yes, we are looking at those air quality statements, I think, expanding through parts of Ontario and Quebec as we get through the next couple of days, and certainly here in Manitoba as well. Temperatures a lot more seasonal today, a lot cooler in northern Manitoba. That helping with that firefight when it's not so scorching hot out there. A bit of a break from the heat. 13 degrees in the Pas right now. Swan River at 18, 20s and 21s through the Red River Valley and into northwestern Ontario. We did get to 23 as forecast this afternoon here in Winnipeg. Overnight temperatures fairly seasonal as well, single digits, 6 degrees in Brandon. A risk of some isolated thunderstorms as we've seen across southern Manitoba as we get through the evening hours tonight. 8 in Pinawa, 7 in Dauphin, mostly clear skies. and some cloud cover, maybe a few lingering showers into parts of northern Manitoba, 2 into Dooley Lake. Thompson looking at a cloudy 4 degrees, maybe a couple of scattered showers yet into the morning. And then we're into a mainly cloudy sky, and winds start to back off as this area of low pressure departs over Hudson Bay, bringing some rain tomorrow to Churchill at 4 degrees, Gillam at 8, with some sunny breaks into the afternoon. Temperatures in the south, mainly sunny skies again tomorrow, very seasonal for this time of the year, 21s pretty much across the board, 20 in Swan River, but you'll notice that haze and those smoky conditions as we get through, particularly into the afternoon, I think through the southern Interlake and right down into the Red River Valley. I'll have your dog walking forecast coming up when I come back.
Thank you very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
Autonomous robots are hitting the sidewalks of a Toronto area community. They're delivering orders for the food app Skip, formerly known as Skip the Dishes. It's part of a 3-month pilot project with a robotics company. Michelle Song has more on how it works.
It's got wheels, a display with facial expressions, a cooler, and it could deliver your next food order.
So we're going to place an order for some croissants.
Food delivery app Skip partnered with Waterloo-based robotics company Real Life Robotics to launch a 3-month pilot project in downtown Markham, giving their customers in the area the option to choose the spot as its form of delivery.
If you're within this 2-kilometer radius, you'll get access to getting the choice of your order being delivered by a robot.
So it's basically a cooler with wheels.
The pilot was approved by the city of Markham, and it aims to further understand how these robots could navigate urban spaces. It drives on sidewalks, and it's accompanied by a human guide. When asked if the robots could become a hazard for pedestrians,
so the robots are equipped with a suite of sensors that give them a high degree of spatial awareness, so they know where they are in the world and what's around them and obstacles and that sort of thing.
They should be able to classify in real time whether this pedestrian is, walking alone or walking with someone. Those sort of things are something that need to be, built into these perception systems.
This expert says robots like these are the future, and it's important to be proactive and think about how to regulate this technology.
We should be making sure that the lessons learned from one pilot, they are, translated into bigger and more sustainable sort of solutions.
Both Skip and Real Life Robotics say they've had hundreds of successful orders so far, and it hopes to eventually expand the use of these robots into cities across Canada in the next few years, alongside its human couriers. Michelle Song, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, if you're planning a trip to the Caribbean in the near future, you'll need to be prepared. The Caribbean and nearby areas have a slimy and unwelcome visitor. A mystery wave of 38 million metric tons of seaweed is choking shorelines from Puerto Rico to Guyana and beyond. That's enough to fill 50,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools, and the most that scientists have observed. It's not just an eyesore, it's also emitting toxic gases, having an impact on tourism and killing wildlife. It's thought the seaweed explosion may be linked to agricultural runoff, warming waters, and changes in wind, current, and rain.
All right, thought we'd do the dog walking forecast. I know it's been a little bit busy times in our province, so yes, thank you for bearing with us on this one, but here we go. Sweetie, tonight, thank you, Talia and Dale, for sending this picture, and you can keep sending yours to talkback@cbc.ca, looking at another seasonal day tomorrow, 21 degrees. I think things a little bit cooler with that haze and that smoke we're expecting through the afternoon hours, and keeping with a little bit of cloud cover into the evening. So another hazy one into Thursday at 24 degrees. Another chance tomorrow, I'll mention, of an isolated thunder shower into the afternoon. 26 into Friday, 27 a chance of showers into Saturday, and then we're looking at our next best chance of some precipitation coming on Sunday at 21 degrees. Well, a good food fight, Marge, requires some really bad tomatoes. The squishier, the better.
Yes, instead of making a salsa or some pasta sauce, why not huck a tomato or two to blow off some steam in our daily lift? This This is the Grand Tomatina Colombia Festival taking place in the town north of the country's capital. The main ammo, about 45 tons of tomatoes that are overripe or not suitable for consumption.
A bloody looking fight that leaves the ground beneath everybody red with juice. It's a tribute to the residents of a town that mostly produce and live off of tomatoes. The 3-day annual festival attracts, get this, some 20,000 visitors.
Wow. Look at that.
Looks good.
It does.
I do like a good tomato.
Yeah, it looks like fun. Ketchup? Anyone?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with me tonight.
Oh, well, you're welcome, Riley. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Come back tomorrow.